Hi everyone, so for our final exam speech, to get right to it, the first part to answer, the skills that I expected to learn from this class was not necessarily being less nervous in front of people when presenting something, but to have confidence in what I'm saying to attract their attention. So they really do hear what I'm telling them or listen to what I'm saying, and they get my overall meaning from my presentation. Sometimes I notice I tend to lose that confidence, and then my audience loses interest, and there was really no point in that speech. Some terms that I felt were really helpful from the book were listening versus hearing, and this is something that I feel is very important on a day-to-day basis. We're constantly communicating with people, and sometimes we only hear what they're saying. We don't really listen to them, and that leads to forgetting what they said, missing important factors or information that was probably needed. Like, for example, if someone's telling you to go do something, but it's like a procedure, if you're not really listening to them, you're gonna forget some steps, and that can result in something really bad depending what the situation is. Or just forgetting, and then it's something that you didn't really pay attention to, so you're not gonna do it because you didn't listen. And also the importance of nonverbal communication. Again, I feel like this is important on a day-to-day basis, because there are times when we can't always speak, or we're communicating with people by just looking at them. Like, for instance, if you have like no expression on your face, you can tell that person's not listening, and then that causes tension in your communication from one person to person that can offend other people or just make communicating a little more difficult. I felt like my strongest presentation was my persuasive speech, and there are many factors that play into that besides having 2 previous speeches with feedback to prepare for this speech. I just also felt my call to action was pretty good in making that tie and connection with the audience to my speech. I used the feedback on how I came across to the audience and adjusted myself to make this final speech as good as I could. And someone else's speech I thought was really strong was Morgan's informative speech. She was able to pick a really confusing topic, but make it clear and simple for the general audience to understand. I felt like she could have shared this to any age group, and they would be interested. They would understand what she was talking about. Also, her examples that she used, it was entertaining, and it kept you interested in her whole speech the whole time. Like using the different fungi with names that we're familiar with and we found humorous. The organization pattern that I chose during my interview speech was topic order, and I was able to do that by being able to transition from point A to point B to point C to develop an overall idea. So for that speech, my interview, Andy was an expert in being a parent, and I gave 3 different points, and each point just transitioned into the next point and the next point, and all those 3 points together just pretty much made like a triangle or a circle on how it all ties into one overall idea. For my informative speech, I did explaining, and this was basically just explaining the process of and effects of caffeine into your body. So from the time you consume it, how long it takes to affect your body, where it goes from from your bloodstream to your brain, affecting your central nervous system, and then leaving your body, the effects when it's in your system, when it's out of your system, that kind of stuff. And a technique I used during my persuasive speech was directness of approach, and that was to establish that common ground with the audience so they could see something they could relate to in my speech. That allowed them to have an interest and actually listen to what I was saying, not just hearing me, which was beneficial to my part because that allowed me to persuade them and use that connection to let them see that it's something that's beneficial for them as well. And a public speaking skill that I felt like I improved on was allowing my personality to surface more throughout my speeches. I was able to have my personality show more, which made my speeches different from somebody else's. I mean, I never had the same topic as someone, but even if I did, I felt like my personality, the way I presented it, my visual aids were maybe a little more different, could have been a little more different than others, which made it a little more memorable for each speech. The Orton and Richards triangle of meaning allowed me to communicate and make that connection with the audience using my ideas and points to flow better and create or establish that overall topic or meaning. My strengths that the instructor said I had was having eye contact while explaining my visual aid, or using my visual aid while I continue to inform the audience or share information. And the classmates' strengths for me were the topic of choice. They felt I had different topics that were interesting, something they thought they would never think of or consider. So that was really nice. I usually struggle with picking interesting topics, so knowing I had 3 good topics throughout this class was pretty good. And the theme in areas of improvement I had were pretty much using notes and nervous fillers. So I do realize I say or like or a lot, and that's something I felt like I did a little better on each time. I felt visualization and preparation for each speech helped me get better, because actually understanding my material allowed me to rely less on my note cards. So no matter what was on the screen or what order I was going in, I was still sharing the right information and in a pattern that would make sense, so I could pretty much teach what I know and pass it on to my audience. Something I could have done better was using the terms from the notes or from the book to link the class and my speeches together. That way I get the overall experience from this class or this course. That's something I felt could have benefited me more. And a professional or personal goal that I see myself in the future is to graduate and continue working. And I feel like this class will help me for that, because for work we're always presenting to corporate managers, whether it's by myself or in groups. It allows us to, I can coach on other people on how to make a better speech, how to get these higher people more interested in what we're talking about, and we know what we're talking about. But also for myself, next semester I'll be taking senior projects, so if I ever need to do a speech for that, I'll have something prepared. And recording myself allowed me to see what the audience saw, so what didn't work, what did work, in areas that I could pretty much improve. Thanks.